wider perspective to get an idea of who's now included in this new polygon, what communities that is. That new warning will be in effect until noon. So here's the polygon we're looking at. Here's Humphrey. You now are included in this tornado warning. Here's Goldman, Stuttgart, west side of town. Anyone in Stuttgart probably needs to be just on guard. This is moving quick enough that things could certainly change in a short amount of time. Fairmount and Humnoak are now included in the new tornado warning just issued from the Weather Service. There's a squall line moving through. It does have some rotation, some little eddies in this line. Now this is pretty typical of what we see in Arkansas. This isn't necessarily like what we dealt with Friday, but this is certainly something that's concerning enough that we want to take our tornado safety precautions. St. Stephen Church, 1123, Historical Pleasant Valley Church, 1126, the town of Humphrey at 1128, Goldman 1135, Stuttgart at 1138 this morning. Just some estimated times of arrival based off the current trajectory and the current speed of this storm. Let me walk you through while we're looking at the winds. Of course, that's going to tell us where the rotation is. Those blues are winds blowing into the storm. Pretty decent inflow into the area of concern. Meanwhile, you got some winds blowing away from the radar, wrapping around the backside, and where all that happens, you get a little bit of a spin, and there's just enough tornado ingredients in place that is going to continue to be a threat for the next little bit. What do you say we take a look at rain mode and just get an idea of storm structure? And that's going to probably show us that if there is a tornado, it's going to be just to the west of 31. You can see that little inflow notch right there. It's kind of tough to see. It's between 15 and 31. That's probably where our area of concern is. 15 and 31 right here, just to the east of Ferda, east of Tucker. The rotation was spotted by local law enforcement near Ferda Road, outside of the Tucker community just a few moments ago. Largely due to that is the reason for the extension of this warning towards the east. I'm getting reports that there may have been some storm sirens sounding in Pulaski County. There is no threat to Pulaski County. There's no threat to Little Rock. There is no threat to North Little Rock. There is no threat to Jacksonville. If you're hearing those sirens, this tornado warning, the only one we've got, is in parts of Jefferson and Lonoke counties. Northern Jefferson, southern Lonoke counties, now parts of Arkansas County as well. Stuttgart, the west side of Stuttgart's in town, so here's going to be 63. You're in that warning, but okay, yeah, tornado warning sirens also going off in the Skot community too. But Pulaski County is no longer in the warning. Let's be very clear. There's only a very small sliver, no threat to Pulaski County. I know there's a lot of folks with some storm PTSD right now. Myself's one of them. I get it. I understand. Let me be clear. There is no threat to Pulaski County right now. The threat is very squarely here in northern Jefferson County, hugging the Jefferson-Pulaski County line. That's where that storm is. It's got a little bit of inflow, a little bit of outflow on the backside. There's just enough twist, just enough turn in the atmosphere to warrant this tornado warning. We do have some reports from the field, from law enforcement, as well as trained storm spotters, that there at times have been a rotating wall cloud. If it's there still, it's going to be right in this general area. You can somewhat see just a little kink in that line. That's where you can sometimes get those spin ups. Here's going to be Humphrey. So if you're in Humphrey, let's go ahead and take our tornado safety precautions. Of course, a lot of duck camps in this area. Probably not a lot of folks in that general area, but if you are here, we want you to go ahead and take those tornado safety precautions. Minimally, at a minimum, there's certainly some gusty winds coming out of this storm. That in of itself could cause some straight line wind damage, but with the reports of the rotating wall cloud, we could have something more imminent. There is enough tornado ingredients. There's a tornado watch in effect until 4 p.m. This afternoon. Corrales?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any. Again, I think in this case, because they have the visual confirmation of seeing some type of wall cloud, but it also could be very much rain wrap with anything that does try to get going, because there's not a lot of like impressive a signal on here on our Storm Track 11 showing any type of rotation, really, or at least visibly using our tool. So I think that's what the case is. So that longer tornado warning that we have in place that was recently issued is pretty much an extension of when it first started in parts of Jefferson and Lonoke counties there. And so that's kind of a continuation further towards the east there. This one is in effect until at least 12 o'clock this afternoon. And I think that they're gonna just kind of wait and see, because again, this one has a little bit better of reports, of visual reports
Sure.
of that rotating wall cloud there. So I think they're just gonna wait and see if that changes at all.
Yeah, we've often said our technology is incredible. It does some great things. We can see well into the storm, but at the end of the day, the best information we can get on these storms are from folks with eyes on the storm. We've got trained spotters, local law enforcement here in northern Jefferson County reporting at times a rotating wall cloud. So given what we know about what's happening above us, just the atmosphere in general, went ahead and issued this tornado warning. The Weather Service did. It was initially set to expire at 11:15. That's been extended until 1 p.m. With the trends, I would believe that it would be allowed to cancel unless we continue to see reports out of the area. For the time being, certainly some gusty winds, northern Jefferson, southern Lone Oak, that will be moving into Arkansas County here in the next few minutes. That's a brand new update that just come in to us. Not seeing any significant changes based off of that radar update. Corrales, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like it's having a hard time catching up because it's moving so fast.
Yeah, these
it's
storms
already
are.
almost halfway through that polygon there, or just north of where I believe, excuse me if I pronounce this community wrong, Gethsemane, if you're familiar with that community. Gethsemane. There we go. Thank you. There, right along Highway
Walker
31
Road.
there.
Yeah, Highway 31 here, Walker Road here, West Hartley Dump Road right here. Really broad rotation, and you're exactly right. The radar is struggling to keep up with that. It's moving so fast. When this first kicked into high gear, our track on this was about 55 miles per hour. Certainly possible it's moving a little bit quicker. With that in mind, Corrales, what did we say? We'd take a little bit wider look. Let's give folks downstream a heads up of what's happening here. There you go, perfect. Goldman, Gethsemane, Humphrey, Humnoke, and Stuttgart. You're going to be in the path of the storm. Downtown Stuttgart, you're not actually in the warning yet. I want you to go ahead, put the shoes on, get ready to move just in case that changes. This is evolving somewhat quickly. Corrales just put us a timeline on here. St. Stephen Church, 11:24. Goldman Community at 11:35. Stuttgart, 11:39. Stuttgart Regional Medical Center, 11:39, of course. So you got a few minutes should the storm maintain its current path and speed. Right now, what do you say, Corrales? Let's just take a statewide view while we have some folks here and get an idea. There are other thunderstorms around the area. If you're just now joining us in Pulaski County, you may have just heard the sirens. Pulaski County never had a threat with this storm. Downtown Little Rock, West Little Rock, I know there's a lot of folks with PTSD, North Little Rock, Sherwood, Jacksonville. The sirens may have sounded. We're okay. There's rain. I know there's thunder. We're okay. Right now, it's just that. It's a good old classic springtime thunderstorm. The tornado threat is limited to this one cell that's now in Jefferson County. Quite a bit of lightning and thunder. You can see those bolts there. I know that's somewhat concerning. I myself jumped a little bit ago. I get it. Right now, this is the main concern, and even then, that tornado potential in this storm is somewhat conditional. You do have this line of storms moving now into eastern Arkansas, some rain on the backside of the system, already clearing out in west parts of the state. Rain now extending from the Missouri-Arkansas border all the way to the Arkansas-Louisiana border. Certainly some heavy downpours, probably seeing a little bit of flooding on the roadways. Your tornado warning here, the single warned storm, is set to expire at noon. There is a tornado watch. We can take a look at that. It has been modified as the threat has ended in West Arkansas. That watch is set to expire at 4 p.m. for all of us, if not sooner, and I would anticipate
It's loading right now for you.
Thank you. I would anticipate that being allowed to expire. Here it is. In fact, you'll notice we just dropped off a few of those counties that were set to expire at noon and were allowed to be canceled earlier. 4 p.m. for the rest of us right now here shaded in yellow. That extends from northeast Arkansas into southern parts of the state. There's not a high tornado potential anymore. That has been steadily dropping over the last few hours. In fact, most of our threat at this point has transitioned over into a damaging wind threat. Even with all that said, as we see right now in Jefferson County and parts of Lono County, you can get quick spin-ups in these squall lines. You can get little eddies that form that would support tornado development. So whenever we're ready, we'll take a closer look back into Jefferson County. There we go. So Pine Bluff, you might be hearing some warnings. Meteorologist Tom Brandon and myself just Monday helped facilitate about 50 different weather radios, got them all programmed, and those are probably going off in Jefferson County. And the reason why, it's not because there's a threat in Whitehall, it's not because there's there's a threat right now in Pine Bluff, even though there's some heavy rain and some gusty winds, the threat's going to be right here, and it's going to be tracking off towards the east. Humphrey, you're next in line to receive the damaging winds, perhaps, but perhaps there's also still some rotation here. It's been a few minutes since we heard from storm spotters and law enforcement. Initially, they did report a rotating wall cloud. It is tracking towards the east, so across 13, it will move into Goldman, likely crossing 343 before pushing into parts of Arkansas County.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't provide much updates because it's looking pretty much the same on our Storm Track 11. I'm even trying to compare it in two different panels using storm relative winds or just the base velocity as well. And even comparing that with our NROT tool where we can see the rotation, you can't, it's really hard to pinpoint. Yeah. Roughly where that blue is that you see right here is roughly where it would be. But
just
again,
to the north of Wabaseka. Yeah, and even then it's pretty weak in nature. All right, our job here is to stick with this until that warning is set to expire. That's what we're going to do. We certainly could see that expire or be canceled here in the next few minutes. In the meantime, we do have a thunderstorm moving through parts of northern Jefferson, here in southern Lone Oak. It's pretty much riding the county line here. The area of rotation is rather, and you'll see that warning splitting the two counties. It does include parts of Arkansas County now. Stuttgart's not technically in it, but it certainly will be tracking through Stuttgart. So heads up, if you're in Stuttgart, you're minimally going to have some strong winds here in the next few minutes. In fact, the orange polygon here, that's going to be a severe thunderstorm warning, and the reason that was issued, winds in excess of 60 miles per hour, perhaps some hail up to 1 inch. But generally, our threat the rest of the day is going to be damaging winds, but we know that there's going to be the potential of a couple of these quick spin-ups along that line of storms, and that line of storms really slowing down. It's going to be hanging around with us a little bit longer. While we're waiting on a new scan from the radar, let's go ahead and take one more statewide perspective. I know there's some other things happening. I want to say it again. I know there's a lot of folks that have been scared. They've been on edge since last night. You may have just heard the tornado siren sound around Pulaski County. There wasn't a threat. There isn't a threat. We're in okay shape. A very tiny section of Pulaski was included in the warning, and it probably triggered some data that didn't realize it wasn't the whole county, and it certainly wasn't Little Rock. It was never North Little Rock. It was never West Little Rock. We're in okay shape. I know there's a lot of folks that made it pretty nervous, and of course I wish that wasn't the case, but here we are. This is the line of storms now moving into the Delta. There will be the potential for some gusty winds along this front. And along this leading edge of these storms, there could be some quick spin-ups. That's pretty common here in Arkansas. Weather Service now telling us they're going to let that tornado warning go. They're going to have one drawn up and ready to go as that line, the kink in that line, does approach the city of Stuttgart. So it looks like they're going to continue to be concerned about this. Let's stay with this here for just a moment. Corrales, let me pivot this to you for just a few seconds.
Yeah, I was not surprised that they decided to drop that. I think that they're just going to wait and see if it cycles up. This is what we've been dealing with for much of our morning, is that we've been dealing with a broken segment of some strong to severe storms. And at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, we even had a little brief spin up that lasted just a few minutes. For parts of the area. So this is why they're keeping an eye out on some of the storms, although they are not showing really strong signals of that rotation sometimes. There's other factors that they'll take in consideration. Obviously, we have the visual confirmation with the lowering of that wall cloud that we have from that storm spotter, but I think this is going to be a case by case where we're going to be babysitting that radar, looking for the little tiny signatures for this spin ups that we have going on there, and that's going to be the case until at least early or late afternoon hours. I think you're exactly right, Corrales. So folks in Pine Bluff, you got some damaging winds moving through. Well, I shouldn't say damaging. There's no warning at the moment, but there is certainly some gusty winds moving through Whitehall, Pine Bluff right now. Heavy rain, probably a decent amount of lightning and thunder. Humphrey, you're going to get some winds moving through. It's the same storm that prompted the tornado warning. Rotation has really broadened out. It's weakened. Warning was allowed to be dropped. Stuttgart, Ulm, Clarendon. You got a leading edge of that storm getting ready to move into your neck of the woods, likely going to produce some gusty winds. You do have a severe thunderstorm warning for 60 miles per hour. Okay, we can say with confidence that that warning has been issued for the time being, but the Weather Service has said, and what Corrales has just said, at any point we could see a little eddy develop, a little kink in that line where some rotation could quickly produce a quick spin-up tornado. If that happens, you can count on us to break in. We're watching everything very closely. For Corallys Ortiz, myself, let's try to send this back to regular programming.